All right, guys, real quick before we get started, first and foremost, I got to send my thoughts out to the folks down in Miami-Dade County where the building collapsed. I forget the name of the condo, but man, that is I cannot get that out of my mind. That is terrible. You know how people were sleeping in their homes, and I just can't believe it. I really it haunts me. So my thoughts certainly go out to the people who perished in the thing, and obviously their families. That's a section of Miami-Dade County that I'm very familiar with. I spent some time in that area. I actually stayed at the Ocean Surf Hotel, which is several blocks southbound on Collins Avenue, but spent a lot of time in that area near Surfside, and man, it's so sad. I can't believe it. So if there's any way you can help with the situation, certainly lend a hand. I know I'll be doing whatever I can, whether it involves donating money or I don't know what it is. I can't stop thinking about it. So thoughts go out to all those folks, and certainly keep them in your thoughts and prayers. But anyway, guys, let's go into some action here on Friday. The Phillies take on the Mets. That's going to be game one of a doubleheader, and that's going to be a 4:10 Eastern first pitch in Flushing, Queens. There's no current line available for game one of the doubleheader here. Looks like Taijuan Walker's the expected starter on the mound for New York. Aaron Nola possible, but not quite yet confirmed for Philly. And I'll tell you what, after a week of just absolute pain and torment betting-wise, we did get back in the winner's circle yesterday with a nice winning day on my Patreon website. We went 3-1 with a push in our 5 premium sports picks on that Patreon page. We persevered, we pushed through, and that's going to improve our record to 3-0 in our last 3 extra daily pick tier package plays on that Patreon site. We're also 3-0 in our last 3 crowd pleaser teasers on that Patreon page as well. And tonight, guys, we're going to do something a little bit different in our teaser package. Now, due to the fact that most books will not allow you to do same-game parlays, unfortunately, same-game teasers are out of the question for these NBA playoff games as well. So keeping that in mind, tonight for my crowd pleaser teaser pick, I'm actually doing an alternate run line parlay in Major League Baseball. So it's kind of a version of a teaser. We're moving the line a little bit and parlaying 2 games. So anyway, guys, we currently have over 1,100 members who are signed up and active on that Patreon page. And if you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally, link for that site is in the description section below. That's patreon.com/BrockPage. And we're trying to pull it together here. I'm still so sad about that condo collapse. I can't get it out of my mind. But anyway, regardless of who the Phillies put on the bump here today, guys, they're going up against Taijuan Walker, who's had one heck of a start to the 2021 season. He's 6-3 thus far in the year with a 2.42 ERA and a 1.05 WHIP. And the righties also struck out 77 batters. Now, the first place Mets are 5 games ahead of Philadelphia in the standings, and they played their best baseball on their home field. New York's currently 22-9 at Citi Field this year, and they lead the majors in fewest hits allowed per game at home. The Mets also allowed just 2.1 runs a game on their home field as well. Now, they're taking on a Phillies club who's on a 3-game losing streak, and they also dropped 6 out of their last 8. Now, the Titans are currently 3 games below 500 right now, and they've picked up the W in only 13 out of 36 road games. This Philadelphia pitching staff is also in the bottom 5 in hits allowed away from home. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the New York Mets winning game 1 outright for some money line cash. Next ball game, Rockies versus the Brewers, 4:10 p.m. East. Milwaukee's -230, total 7.5. Corbin Burns for Milwaukee, John Gray for Colorado. Now, Gray's just 4-6 with a 4.29 ERA and a 1.29 WHIP. The Rockies still have the fewest road wins in all of baseball. They're a pitiful 6-28 straight up as the away team. and they rank dead last in road hits. This Colorado lineup is also putting just 2.6 runners across the plate when they travel. They're taking on a first-place Milwaukee club who won 4 out of their last 5. And they currently lead the majors in striking batters out. This Brewers pitching staff averages nearly 11 punch-outs a game at American Family Field. Kind of weird calling it that out. It just feels like it should always be called Miller Park or something. It's got to be associated with beer, right? Anheuser-Busch Field, I don't know. American Family Field. We go from Miller Park to American Family Field. But anyway, the Brewers also have Corbin Burns on the mound here tonight, who has 108 strikeouts and just 68 innings of work. The righty comes into today's contest with a 2.62 ERA and a .93 WHIP. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Milwaukee's last 3 home games stayed under the number, 60% to the under in their last 10 outings as well. Meanwhile, the Rockies' last 3 road games stayed under the line themselves, 20 and 14 to the under in their 34 road games for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward the Milwaukee Brewers -1.5 and the under 7.5 runs in the tight window. Next game, Orioles, Blue Jays, 7:07 Eastern Standard Time. The Toronto Blue Jays are -235, totals 10.5. Alek Manoah for Toronto. Matt Harvey for Baltimore. Now, Harvey's just 3-9 with a 7.80 ERA and a 1.78 WHIP. The last place Orioles are 29 games below 500, and they have the fewest wins in the American League. The O's are scoring just 3.5 runs a game when they travel, and they've gotten the W in only 11 out of 37 road games. They're taking on a Toronto club who's on a 5-game winning streak, and they actually beat the brakes off of Baltimore yesterday by the final of 9-0. The Blue Jays are in the top 5 in home scoring, top 3 in hits. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is leading the majors in homers, RBI, and OPS. The Sluggers hit 24 home runs and knocked in 61. He also has an OPS of 1.110. Marcus Semien has also hit 18 homers and knocked in 43. He's currently 8th in the league in that home run category. Now, total-wise, the Blue Jays are 17 and 13 to the over at Solid Field. The Orioles went 70% to the over in their last 10 outings themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Toronto Blue Jays -1.5 and the over 10.5 runs. Next ball game, Angels versus the Rays, 7:10 p.m. East. The Tampa Bay Rays are -150, totals 8.5. Andrew Kittredge for Tampa Bay, Griffin Canning for Los Angeles. Canning comes into today's matchup with a 5.07 ERA and a 1.40 WHIP. Now, Upton and Suzuki are still questionable for Los Angeles. Mike Trout, he's still out with the calf. The Angels are currently on a 3-game losing streak, and they went just 3-6 straight up in their last 9. This Angels pitching staff is also in the bottom 5 in walks allowed per 9. They're taking on a first-place Tampa club who won their last 2 straight, and they also allowed just 3.3 runs a game at the Trop. This Rays pitching staff is in the top 3 in fewest hits allowed per game. They also have Andrew Kittredge on the bump for him here tonight. He's 5-1 with a 1.27 ERA and a .88 WHIP. When it comes to the scoring in this one, the Rays went 60% to the over in their last 10 ball games. Los Angeles saw their last 4 straight road games get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Tampa Bay Rays -150 and the over 8.5. Next matchup, Yankees versus the Red Sox, 7:10 p.m. Eastern start time. The New York Yankees are -135, numbers 10.5. Domingo Germán for New York, Martin Perez for Boston. Now, Perez is 5-4 on the season with 57 strikeouts. The Boston Red Sox are currently 13 games above 500, and they're in the top 3 in scoring. Xander Bogaerts is 7th in the league in batting average. The shortstop is hitting .321 with an OPS of .932. Meanwhile, Rafael Devers is 2nd in the league in RBI with 60 of them. The third baseman has also slammed 18 homers thus far in the year. This Boston lineup is in the top 3 in the league in hits. They're taking on a Yankees club who's been struggling at the plate this season. They're currently in the bottom 10 in the majors in both scoring and hits per game. They also have Domingo Germán on the bump here today, who normally that would be good news, but he's just 4-4 on the season with a .417 ERA. Now, total-wise, New York's 21-17 to the under in their divisional games this season, 42-32 to the under for the entire year. I'm going to lean toward the underdog Boston Red Sox plus 1.5 and the under 10.5 runs. Next matchup, Braves versus the Reds, 7:10 East. Now this game's currently off the board. Looks like Drew Smyly for the Braves, Vlad Gutierrez for Cincinnati. Now Vlad's 3-1 on the season with a 3.86 ERA. The Reds are on a 2-game winning streak with one of those victories coming against Atlanta. Cincinnati's also leading the big leagues in home scoring. Now Nick Castellanos, he's in the top 5 in both batting average and OPS. The outfielder is batting .343 with an OPS of .991. Meanwhile, Jesse Winker's in the top 10 in batting average and OPS himself. Winker's batting .330 at the plate with an OPS of .995. The Cincinnati pitching staff's also fanning over 10.2 batters a game at home. They're taking on an Atlanta club who's currently 4 games below 500, and they have a losing record on the road. The Braves have been victorious in only 15 out of 34 road games, and they somehow rank in the bottom 10 in hits on average per game. Tough to do with that really powerful lineup. But anyway, this Atlanta pitching staff also walks over 3.8 batters a game when they travel. Drew Smyly comes into today's start with a 5.11 ERA and a 1.35 whip. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward the Cincinnati Reds winning that one outright for some money line cash. Next matchup, it is going to be Nats Fish, 7:10 East. The Miami Marlins are minus 135, number 7.5 flat. Pablo Lopez for Miami, John Lester for Washington. And as shaky as Big John's looked in a handful of starts, he still comes into today's game with a respectable 3.96 ERA. The Nats have also been red hot here lately. 5-game winning streak, 10-1 straight up in their last 11. This Washington pitching staff allows under 7.3 hits a game. They're taking on a last-place Miami club who's a dozen games below 500, and they have a losing record at home. The Marlins score just 3.8 runs per contest, and they average nearly double-digit strikeouts a game at the plate. And as great as Pablo Lopez has looked this year, the righty comes into today's matchup with a 3-4 record. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Miami's last 4 home games did get over the line. Meanwhile, 2 out of the Nats' last 3 contests on the road got over the number themselves. And although my thoughts and prayers are still with that Miami community, I hope they do get a W here today. Once again, I can't get over the building collapse there, but betting is betting, and I do have to lean toward the Washington Nationals plus $1.15 and the over 7.5. Next ball game, Astros Tigers, 7:10 p.m. Eastern start time. The Houston Astros are minus 285, totals 9.5. Framber Valdez for Houston, Willie Peralta for Detroit. Now, Peralta comes into this game with a 7.11 ERA in very limited action. The Tigers are also 11 games below 500, and they average double-digit strikeouts a game. As a matter of fact, this Detroit lineup is scoring just 3.8 runs a game at Comerica Park. They're taking on a first-place Houston club who continues to win ball games. The Astros are now on an 11-game winning streak, and they lead the majors in scoring. Michael Brantley leads the majors in batting average. The outfielder is hitting .355 with an OPS of .923. Meanwhile, Yuli Gurriel is in the top 10 in both batting average and RBI himself. The first baseman's batting .333 with 52 RBI. When it comes to the pitching in this one, the Astros are in the top 5 in fewest hits allowed on the road. They give up just 3.9 runs a game as the away team. Framber Valdez is a perfect 4-0 thus far in the year. 1.67 ERA and a .99 whip. When it comes to the total, Detroit's currently 23-14 to the under on their home field. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Astros minus 1.5 and the under 9.5. Next ball game, Kansas City versus Texas, 8:05 Eastern Standard Time. The Kansas City Royals are both teams are minus $1.10. Totals 8. Mike Minor for Kansas City, Dane Dunning for Texas. Now Dunning's just 2-6 on the season, 4.71 ERA, 1.54 WHIP. The last place Rangers are currently 21 games below 500, and they lost 8 out of their last 10. This Rangers pitching staff is in the bottom 3 in home strikeouts, bottom 3 in hits allowed. Meanwhile, offensively, the Rangers are scoring just 3.7 times a game at Globe Life Field. They're taking on a Kansas City club who strikes out nearly double-digit batters a game on the road. This Royals pitching staff is also holding their opponents to less than 7.6 hits a game when they travel. Mike Minor is 6-4 on the year with a 1.18 WHIP. The lefty struck out 92 batters in just over 86 innings of work. When it comes to the total on this one, the Rangers are 23-15 to the under on their home field. Meanwhile, the Royals are 21-15 to the under when they bat first. I'm going to lean toward the Kansas City Royals minus $1.10 and the under 8 runs. Next matchup, Mariners versus the White Sox, 8:10 p.m. East. The Chicago White Sox are minus 190, numbers 7.5. Carlos Rodon for Chicago, Yusei Kikuchi for Seattle. And despite a really good year thus far for the Cooch, we're looking at a Mariners club who plays their worst baseball on the road. Out of Seattle's 36 road games, they've gotten the W just 15 times. The Seattle lineup is also dead last in hits per contest. They're averaging less than 6.9 hits a game. They're taking on a first-place White Sox club who leads the American League in home wins. Chicago's gone 27-12 at Guaranteed Rate Field, and they allow only 3.1 runs a game there. The White Sox are also in the top 3 in fewest hits allowed on their home field. Carlos Rodon is 6-2 on the season with a 1.83 ERA and a .84 WHIP. The lefty has also struck out 105 batters in just over 73 innings. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Chicago's last 3 home games got over the number. The White Sox also went 60% to the over in their last 10 as well. I'm going to lean toward the Chicago White Sox minus 1.5 and the over 7.5. Next ball game I have for you, it is going to be Indians versus the Twins, 8:10 p.m. Eastern first pitch. Now, Minnesota's minus $1.25, total's 9.5. Cal Quantrill for the Indians, Danny Columbe for Minnesota. Now, the last place Twins are a dozen games below 500. They also lost their last 2 straight, and they got the W in just 15 out of 38 home games. The Minnesota pitchers are in the bottom 3 in runs allowed, bottom 5 in hits allowed. They're taking on a first-place Cleveland club who won 3 out of their last 4 ball games. The Indians also went 9-4 straight up in their last 13. This Cleveland rotation is holding their opponents to under 7.4 hits a game when they travel. They're also in the top 3 in striking batters out on the road. Cal Quantrill comes into today's start with a 2.74 ERA. And when it comes to the number in this one, 4 out of Cleveland's last 6 road games stayed under the posted total. The Indians also went 11-8 to the under in their divisional games on the road. I'm going to lean toward the Cleveland Indians plus $1.10 and the under 9.5. Next matchup, Pirates versus the Cardinals, 8:15 East. The St. Louis Cardinals are minus 175, totals 8.5. Kwang Yun Kim for St. Louis, Will Crow for Pittsburgh. Now, Crow's 0-4 with a 6.42 ERA and a 1.57 WHIP. The last place Pirates have the second fewest wins in the National League. They've also gotten the W in only 11 out of 36 road games. This Pittsburgh lineup is dead last in the majors in scoring on average per contest. The Pirates are currently averaging just 3.1 runs a game when they travel. They're taking on a St. Louis club who still has a winning home record despite their recent struggles. And as a matter of fact here, the Cards have gotten the W in 3 out of their last 4 home games. And in addition to that, they're also in the top 5 in fewest strikeouts at the plate. Tyler O'Neill has hit 15 home runs along with a .906 OPS. Meanwhile, Nolan Arenado, he's hit 14 homers and knocked in 48. The Cards also have Kwang Yun Kim, who's got himself a 3.60 ERA coming into today's start. When it comes to the scoring in this one, 3 out of St. Louis's last 4 home games stayed under the number. 21-14 to the under for the entire season at Busch Stadium. Meanwhile, the Pirates are 21-15 to the under when they bat first. I'm going to lean toward the St. Louis Cardinals minus 175 and the under 8.5 runs. Next ball game, A's versus the Giants, 9:45 Eastern Standard Time. The Oakland A's are minus 120, totals 8, juice to the over. Sean Manaea for Oakland, Johnny Cueto for San Francisco. Cueto's 5-3 on the year with 47 strikeouts. The first place Giants are also on a 3-game winning streak. They picked up the W in 8 out of their last 9. The Giants have also won 3 out of their last 4 interleague home games. They've posted a record of 24-10 at Oracle Park. The San Francisco pitching staff leads the majors in fewest walks allowed. They're also holding their opponents to just 3.6 runs a game. Now they're taking on an Oakland club who lost 4 out of their last 6, and they also rank in the bottom 10 in hits allowed. The A's are also in the bottom 10 in striking batters out. So with those factors in mind, if you're looking to place a bet on this game, just keep those stats in the back of your mind. Now, total-wise, Oakland went 60% to the over in their last 10 ball games. 3 out of their last 5 interleague games on the road got over the number as well. Meanwhile, 5 out of San Francisco's last 7 home games got over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the San Francisco Giants plus $1 in the over 8 runs. Next ball game, Diamondbacks, Padres, 10:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The San Diego Padres are minus 290, totals 8.5. Chris Paddock for San Diego, Corbin Martin for Arizona. The Martins 0-2 with a 8.62 ERA. The Diamondbacks are a league worst 33 games below 500. They've gotten the W in just 9 out of 40 road games. And of course, that's good for just 22% in that particular category. The Diamondbacks are dead last in the majors in runs allowed, dead last in hits allowed as well. They're taking on a Padres club who's on a 7-game winning streak, and they also held their opponents to just 2.8 runs a game during that stretch. Now, the Pods currently lead the majors in most home wins. They're currently 28-14 straight up at Petco Park. They also lead the majors in striking batters out on their home turf. Chris Paddock's fanned 68 batters in just over 63 innings of work. He comes into today's start with a 1.18 whip. When it comes to the total in this one, 5 out of Arizona's last 7 home games got over the line. Meanwhile, the D-backs went 3-1 to the over in their last 4 road games themselves. I'm going to lean toward the San Diego Padres minus 1.5 and the over 8.5 runs. And with that, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup. Cubs versus the Dodgers, 10:10 p.m. Eastern start time. The LA Dodgers are minus 180, totals 9.5. Tony Gonsolin for Los Angeles, Jake Arrieta for Chicago. Now, Arrieta comes into this ballgame with a 5-8 record along with a 5.45 ERA. This guy really hasn't been great for a while now. The righty also comes into today's start with a 1.48 whip. Now, the Cubbies clearly play their worst baseball on the road. Winners of just 16 out of 36 road games. Their lineup striking out nearly 10 times a game on the road, and they're averaging less than 7.3 hits a game at the plate. Meanwhile, their pitching staff is giving up 4 walks a game when they travel. They're taking on a Dodger club who does a nice job on their home field. They're 23-13 straight up when they're home, and they rank in the top 3 in scoring on average per game. Max Muncy, he's in the top 10 in the league in OPS. The first baseman currently has an OPS of 943. He's also hit 14 homers and knocked in 33. Meanwhile, Justin Turner is batting .283 with 39 ribbies himself. Lots of timely hitting for this Dodgers club. Meanwhile, this LA pitching staff is striking out 10.6 batters a game at Dodger Stadium. Now, total-wise, LA's last 4 straight home games all stayed under the number. Meanwhile, the Cubbies went 4-1 to the under in their last 5 as the road team. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers minus 180 and the under 9.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like the New York Mets winning game one for some money line cash. I also like Milwaukee minus 1.5 under 7.5. I'm leaning toward the Toronto Blue Jays minus 1.5 over 10.5. I like Tampa Bay minus 150 over 8.5 runs. I like Boston plus 1.5 under 10.5. I'm also leaning towards Cincinnati winning their game outright for some money line cash. I like Washington plus $1.15 over 7.5. I'm leaning toward Houston minus 1.5 under 9.5. I like Kansas City minus $1.10 under 8 runs. I'm also leaning toward the Chicago White Sox minus 1.5 and the over 7.5. I like Cleveland plus $1.10 under 9.5 runs. I also like St. Louis minus 175 under 8.5. Give me San Francisco plus $1 over 8 runs. I also like San Diego minus 1.5 over 8.5. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are coming fresh off a winning day on my Patreon website. We went 3-1 with a push in our 5 premium sports picks on that Patreon page. We also improved to 3-0 in our last 3 extra daily pick tier package plays on that Patreon site as well. I'm going to lean toward the LA Dodgers minus 180 and the under 9.5. With that, guys, now it's time for some shout-outs to our top 10 YouTube commenters over the past couple of days or so. Shout out to Ralph Portmondo, Mike Jones, Mike Ernest, Shane Gary, Maya Doan, Jerry Pulaski, Bobby Guerrero, Edward Hunt, Kenneth Core, and last but certainly not least, got to give a shout out to my man, Cesar Suarez. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys do end up getting a package here today on my Patreon website, just keep in mind Patreon bills you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. So if you do end up getting a package here today, you are going to get access to that content through the end of June. And then Patreon is going to bill you again on July 1st if you continue to opt in. I always tell folks the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. I really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. I hate to be down and somber opening up the video, but like I said earlier, I cannot get that building collapse out of my mind, and the fact that there's still people trapped makes me sick. It really hurts my heart, but I can't even think about it. But anyway, guys, thoughts and prayers go out to everybody in that Miami-Dade County area. My mother lives in Florida. I got family down in Florida, so certainly not in that area, thank God, but it doesn't make it any less tragic. I just can't get it out of my mind. So thank you for bearing with me while I express my feelings a little bit. But anyway, guys, happy Friday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.